It says started. So I'm going to go with the idea that says, yep, we are started now. So perfect. Hi, everybody. This is Alan Jackson here with the Footcandle Film Festival over on the other side of the room. Chris Fry is with me as well. Chris, how you doing?
I'm doing good.
Good. I asked that, not really. There's no reason why I should ask that because we're in this room together all day in the studio.
It's
we
true.
know how each other's doing. But the cool thing is that we actually have somebody new in the studio with us to do this Q&A, talking about the film Electric Jesus that many of you just finished watching. And we are very happy to have with us in person Chris White, the writer and director of the film Electric Jesus. How you doing, Chris?
Hey, I'm great. This is Footcandle Film Festival. I've been here in the past with a couple of different movies, and this is always like my favorite. I live down the road. I live in Greenville, South Carolina.
Yeah.
But this feels like my hometown film festival.
Oh man, that's really nice.
I mean,
to say.
like this is the one, like curation wise, and just the way it's set up. I'm already making myself feel sad because of the COVID year.
Yeah.
And so we're not in that auditorium and everything. But man, Footcandle has the most people per screening, the most worthwhile curation of movies. It's just so great. So I'm very happy to have been asked to screen Electric Jesus in this festival, and happy that we can be in the room together.
Well, that sounds like a wrap for me. So great, wonderful. We're all good.
And we're done.
I got to talk about Electric Jesus though, guys.
Fine. Let's talk about the film. So great. Well, we also have some other guests here that I did want to introduce as well. They're joining us remote Zoom. So I'm going to pull them up here, and we're going to go around left to right, introducing them here. Shannon Hutchinson over on the far left hand. She played Sarah in the film. How you doing, Shannon?
I'm doing great.
Good.
That was fun.
Great. In the middle there, Caleb Hoffman, who played Scotty in the band. How you doing?
Good.
Awesome. And then to the far right, Andrew Eckel, who played Eric in the film. How you doing, Andrew?
Hey there.
Hey, great. So it's really awesome to have all you here.
I think it's great. Like, fans just don't recognize Caleb without that mullet. Like, to
It's
see
true.
him,
I didn't recognize him without the mullet.
I've been editing the film and working on it for months, and now to see Caleb without the mullet, I feel like something's missing. A part of me is missing.
Oh, yeah, that's great. Well, we're real excited to talk about the film. And again, a lot of people have already watched it throughout the weekend, but a lot of people just finished watching it as kind of our recommended screening time on that. And I mean, let's just go with the obvious question, Chris. I mean, it's a very specific film about a specific time period and a specific genre of music and culture. Tell us what brought you to want to make this film.
A lot of people give the advice to write what you know.
Mm-hmm.
And so I started writing something I thought I knew, but what I think I found out while I was writing and then as we were making the movie is I actually figure out what I know by creating, by the work, like working with actors like these and working on the film. Like, I think I know something and I'm inspired to start writing about it, and then I figure it out as I go. And this was definitely one of those things. I'd never seen a movie that had Christian characters, evangelical, that subculture of Christian. Usually in movies, like, Christian characters are either, they're either really bad guys or stupid or superheroes. Like, if it's a faith-based movie, a lot of times they're like super Christians. I'd never seen people that were like Christians I knew,
Right.
which were just like weird kids that were kind of funny and messy, and so that's what I was really writing. And I was trying to also get that the voice, the way that we talked, where you might talk in a way that sounds very devout or very religious one second, and then the next second it just sounds like a bunch of kids having fun. So and I'd never seen that in a movie, and so it makes me happy that a movie exists now.
Now exists. Absolutely now exists. So I'd love to hear, too, from those of you on the Zoom here, our cast members. So maybe each of you kind of tell me a little bit about what attracted you to the project. I mean, obviously, you decided to take a role with it, and kind of what you felt like you were able to bring to the project or to the character that you got to play there.
Yeah, so I think the world is familiar to me. I grew up in the church. My grandparents were pastors. So I had a very devout upbringing. So I recognized the vernacular. I recognized the language, the way people talked. Having grown up in youth group culture, it was very familiar to me. And I also I was in a youth group band for about 3 or 4 months. And so there was it was like a small casting thing that I saw, and it was, what was it, like 6 dudes with mullets. Remember this? The very
picture,
first,
the picture that they used.
And I was like, and I was like, that looks incredibly entertaining. I have got to read that. So that's what drew me to it, and that was kind of my connection.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
What-
I mean, like,
Go ahead, you, Shannon.
stage and comedy, musical, 80s period piece. And it's just like the conglomeration of everything you would ever want to do in a project. So you think, oh man, like this is a 1 in a million chance. There's no way. I mean, everyone would want to do this thing. You get to be a rock star in it. You get to pretend that there's screaming fans and you're like a super great musician, even if you're only okay. I mean, it was just in all parts, just my dream, and I'm sure any actor's dream, to be a part of a project like this.
I wanted to wear a mullet.
Fair enough.
No, I was in a worship team myself back home in Arkansas for about 10 years. And me and my buddies, of course, would go around town making goofy videos. And so I told Chris, this is just reliving my childhood over again, except in the 80s. So
That's awesome. That's great. So Chris, tell me a little bit about the production itself. I mean, when did you guys kind of start on the project, and kind of any trials or complications along the way, or was it
It was actually the easiest thing I've ever done. No, it was very challenging.
Yeah.
My wife Emily and I have worked on what I would call micro budget, smaller budget, very small budget indie projects, shorts and features. And I think, it would have been smart maybe to have a step between the last thing we did and this thing, because it was a big leap in terms of budget and just, I mean, you're shooting a period movie with music, like songs and playback, and these guys are, Caleb's playing drums with a track and Wyatt's singing and Shannon singing. It was a very complicated production that when you're jumping into it, you just try not to think about. But then when you get on the other side of it, it's like, whoa, that was incredibly challenging.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, with the project, we're independent. So Emily and I, I wrote the screenplay. There's a business plan. You get private equity investment. You get we shot in Georgia, so there's some state tax credits.
Okay.
So the business aspect of it just took 2-3 years to really get it going. Not what you want to hear when you're starting. Oh, this will only take 4 years to do this. Yeah. I want to do it now. And with these guys, these actors we found them now I think we found you in 2017. And then we shot in 2019. So if that makes, thinking we would shoot in 2017, no, it's not going to happen. Thinking we would shoot in 2018. And oddly enough, Andrew is like the oldest, I think, of the whole cast, right? And looks the youngest. It's very strange. But like Andrew by now is like, you're early 40s now, right? He really is. He kind of looks like Michael J. Fox, I think, in the movie, because we gave you Marty McFly's haircut, I believe, for that. But I mean, he just has an ageless. So fortunately, all my leads still stayed young looking.
Oh yeah.
So
I just put my agent on hold for a while. I was like, I think it would help out.
But yeah, it was very challenging. We filmed in Columbus, Georgia, last summer. So I think we wrapped about a year ago, right?
Oh wow, okay, great.
It was like maybe to the day or something.
Almost to the day. We were talking about that earlier. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, challenging. These guys were in prep for a couple of weeks, I think, and then shooting for about a month.
Okay.
Yeah.
I got to ask you about the music in the film, just because, I mean, it's such a music-based film. I think we hear a combination of both songs from the 80s that were part of the culture at the time, and we also heard original songs. Tell us about the original songs and the process of writing music for a film. Is that something that you had ever had to do before, or was this a new experience?
No. So I'm just the screenwriter guy. And I knew what I wanted. I knew lyrics to songs.
Right.
And music's very important to me, but I'm not a musician.
Okay.
And so as I was writing it, I was thinking of, a 15-year-old devout Christian kid who's listening to Christian rock and metal, what would that guy write? Okay. So I'm writing in character.
Yeah.
So the theology would be kind of off maybe, or he would have some ideas that didn't quite flesh out, and some of it might sound kind of silly or trite or whatever, but it's his voice, his ideas, right? Then I had the great fortune of working with a phenomenal guy, Daniel Smith, who wrote the original songs and score. Daniel's has a band called Danielson Family. They were and still are active, but were kind of big in the 90s. And Daniel is he grew up with hair metal. He's known as an alternative rock artist. But he had this, soft place in his heart for Def Leppard and Rat. And, so we just started listening to that music. So we wrote the music and the songs to be good now.
Yeah.
And we kept the words kind of coming out of that 15-year-old's mouth.
Yeah.
So that's why with a song like Commando for Christ, you, even if you think the lyrics are cheesy or kind of embarrassing or kind of silly, you can't get that melody out of your head.
I can vouch for that personally because as part of the screening process, my wife and my son, who my son is a musician as well, both watched it with me. And they were both humming Commandos for Christ for like a week afterwards. So it's luckily is a catchy tune, so I didn't mind it. But it was great. It was good. Well, I want to ask the cast members real quick, and then we'll go to a couple audience questions as well. Talking about the music, obviously for Shannon and for Caleb, you guys had to play musicians. Tell me, what's your background in music? Do you? I know Shannon's. I'm throwing you a softball because I know some of you, but I'm actually curious too about Caleb. We'll get to you in a minute about your drumming experience, if any. But Shannon, tell us a little bit of background of you regarding the music and how did that fit with you in the film?
I've always sang, as I'm sure everyone has, in the shower in their basement while their parents are like, "Oh my gosh, what are you doing?" But I tried to play guitar before. I did a little bit of band in school, but I wasn't like fantastic. But I've always tried to learn guitar, and I just couldn't do it for some reason. And when I saw this, I was like, I have to learn this. I have to know this. So I think on my 9-hour drive from where I lived in Pennsylvania to the audition in Aiken, my dad was driving the whole way, so I just brought the guitar and I was like, I'm just going to learn these 3 chords I need for the song I sing in the movie, and I'll just learn this guitar on the way down. And by the time I got down there, I was like, okay, I don't know guitar, but I get these 3 chords. And from then on, we had time between the audition and when we actually shot the movie, and that time between, I just started to really pick it up and love it, and I do it all the time now. It's so fun. I can finger plucking everything, and so I'm really grateful for that. I wouldn't say I'm fantastic or great by any means, but I mean, I'm definitely, I could probably play most of the songs in the movie.
Awesome.
I want to brag on Shannon. What you're hearing when she sings in the movie was recorded on the day in the room in that microphone.
Oh, wow.
Now, she had already recorded in the studio, so we had a backup. But it was my hope with Daniel, who was there also. It was like, I want to record those vocals live, like they did for the Commitments.
Yeah,
okay. We were talking
That's
about
right.
Commitments earlier. And Shannon's, I think maybe it's 2 takes but they're both live takes in front of that audience when you sing "This World Is Not My Home," and pretty much strumming the electric guitar correctly as well. While you're doing that.
I was getting at least the chords right.
Yeah, but that's her voice you're hearing. It's great.
Yeah, no, it's great. It's a Caleb. What are you a drummer by profession, or do you just play one on screen?
Well, when I was in middle school, there was 2 things I wanted: either 6-pack abs, or be able to play the drums, and one of those led me to get electric Jeep.
Awesome.
So, no, I started when I was in middle school. I worked a baseball field all summer and saved up for a drum kit. And from age 14, I got into that worship band at church, and up until 21, so roughly, 7 years or so, being in the worship band and playing drums. But I always played songs that I grew up listening to at church. So when Chris would send me these songs, I'm not going to lie, sometimes I would get frustrated because here's this studio professional just killing it. 80s song that was 10 years before my time. But I'm very grateful for it because it opened up the doorway to learning new music and new styles. And the drummer,
Patrick Berkery, the studio drummer. You
What
talking
was
about the
it?
studio? Patrick Berkery.
Patrick Berkery, yeah.
Yeah.
Shout out to him. Talented guy. He made me mad a lot of times.
That's great.
Yeah, Pat plays with War on Drugs. Is a band. A
sure,
bunch of
yeah.
bands. A bunch of the Philly bands.
That's great. Cool. Andrew, I wanted to ask you a question just because, I mean, obviously your role is really, you're the viewpoint we're following through the film. You are our carrier kind of throughout the whole story. Tell me a little bit about you connecting with your character and just knowing that the whole film had to be kind of told from your perspective and from your memory. Just talk me through that process of trying to get in the head of Eric to play this, because I think it's an interesting, challenging role to play, and I think you did a great job with it. How did you kind of get prepped for it, and kind of what did you do along the way with it?
Well, to reiterate, I definitely grew up being this kid. You know, I mean, I grew up in the church. I was a pretty quiet, very serious, dedicated Christian growing up. Mm-hmm. Now, that's not really me anymore, but I mentally tried to kind of dredge that back up.
Yeah.
And then, you know, like Chris said a little while ago, we did have a couple of years to kind of get comfortable in the skin of these characters. And I think Chris did a great job at casting people who either just were the characters or used to be. Mm-hmm. And so, you know, for me, I think it was really just sort of a connection with who I once was. Mm-hmm. And also understanding that this kid is somebody who he's never the bad guy, but he does make some choices that are questionable. Mm-hmm. Things that, you know, I don't think it's the right thing to do or the way that you should go about it. But he's genuine, and he's kind of feeling his way through this for the first time. So I think it was just really mostly a connection to my past, and then trying to understand like where he is in the story and what choices he's making and why he would make those.
Now, I've got to ask this just because I commented to Chris earlier when I saw him after seeing the film for the first time, how amazed I was the connection between you, Andrew, and the actor playing the older version of you. So did you guys swap notes at all? Did you guys work together at all? Or did he just, you know, I'm just kind of curious how you guys were able to mirror to make a consistent character that we saw at two completely different time periods.
Yeah, well, I think that's probably, I think that's mostly casting.
Yeah.
Matt Sefik, our casting director, I think did a great job finding somebody who was able to come in on day one. Or I guess that was actually the last day, but it was his day one.
Day one of one.
And he just sort of hit the ground running. I think he did a great job. We didn't really get a chance to exchange notes.
Okay.
I got to have a couple of drinks with him and just kind of talk at a bar one evening, but that was about it.
Wow.
Yeah, I asked him. I said, "Did you like look up Andrew's stuff? Because even your movements." He's like, "Oh man, I thought they looked at me first and they cast it."
Oh wow, that's funny.
Yeah, I think I'm trying to remember. I feel like we sent him some kind of. I think maybe Scott and Zach pulled some clips of you, Andrew, to send to Matt. Matt Hoffman is the guy that's no relation to Caleb, but he's the guy that plays older Eric, and I feel like he maybe saw some of your dailies or something. Mm-hmm. But the image, it was just spitting image, and we had tried to cast Andrew McCarthy, the '80s actor, because it's from when we first met Andy Eckel, we thought, oh, he looks like Andrew McCarthy.
He does.
And so we were gonna, and then Andrew McCarthy was just wrapping some show he was directing or something. We couldn't get him.
Yeah.
And it was like, oh no, you know, and that just led to this hunt for lookalikes. And I mean, it's stunning. There's people that watch the movie and say, is that CG? Like, how did you did you do a reverse Irishman on Andrew?
No,
It was. No. Even their voices are very similar.
I was amazed. So I actually pointed that out to you after I saw the film the first time. I thought that was really, really great. Chris, I know we probably have some comments, questions from the audience.
Yeah, absolutely. So we have someone that just wants you to know they loved, 3 loves there, this movie. And you've talked about it a little bit, but they were curious. They wonder if you grew up in the world of Christian heavy metal. So, so we talked a little bit before we started this interview, but share with...
So I grew up in Christian youth group culture. You know, I was a Southern Baptist kid, Columbia, South Carolina. And I loved Christian rock music, and I certainly was a fan of Stryper. I was maybe more into the more alternative rock Christian stuff, like Steve Taylor and Daniel Amos and people like that. But yeah, that was the way they talk is the way me and my friends talk when we were growing up.
That's awesome.
And thank you for the love. We appreciate it.
They also wanted to say that they loved the live performances. They thought were really, really good. And they smiled through each one. And they like how you played the entire song, not just an excerpt. They thought that was powerful.
Oh, yeah. And there's the song in the middle, which is it's just the high point of the whole movie is the To Hell with the Devil lip sync. Do you remember shooting that? I know you guys remember shooting that in a little tiny hotel room that looked exactly like it looks in the movie. But we showed it. We actually had a private screening with Michael Sweet of the band Stryper.
Oh, wow.
Like last week, we went up to Massachusetts and sat in a theater and watched it, and he loved it. But he was just like, dude, you kept my whole song, and you didn't even edit it. And I was like, actually, Mike, we did trim a little bit, but yeah, we kept the whole song. He was like, that was awesome. So he was a big fan of that scene. I figured he would be. It's a great song.
So how did he react to the film as a whole?
I don't want to speak for Mr. Sweet, but he was very positive. He liked the movie.
Well, I think the film is so respectful of. I mean, so many times we see films that are trying to portray, especially in the '80s, bands and all that, and it's typically in a very negative light. And really, you were doing nothing but shining a light on this and raising it up, and I think that was
I think
great.
I think with that Christian subculture as well, the point wasn't to make fun of it. The point, but we were having fun with it.
Yes.
So, and there's a difference, sometimes when you're, I don't know, angry or you're mad about something, you're making fun of it can come off a little mean. And I think in this, we definitely have some jokes at the expense of the Christian characters, but they're all in good fun.
That's great. Chris, you got another question?
On that note, there was another comment here that I want to mention to you. And they said, back when you were talking about the songs and the original ones that you wrote for the film, one person made a comment and they said they were Christian Spinal Tap songs. And I think that is amazing. And why that's amazing is because, like Christopher Guest, who worked with Spinal Tap, there has to be a love of the material to do it. If you don't love it, Spinal Tap, like they loved the music that they are, sending up in a spoof of a documentary. It's like they love it and therefore they can write it and they're having fun with it, but they generally like the music.
Yeah.
I think that's a great compliment and it totally sums it up.
Well, one of my, I love the song Barabbas. It's the one they record in the recording studio with Chris Angelopoulos. And I remember writing the song, and the joke to me in the song as I was writing it, I wanted it to be a sincere thing. The story of Barabbas is part of the crucifixion story in the gospel, and Barabbas is a bad guy, and Pilate tries to, you want Jesus to be murdered or this guy to be or executed, and the people say, give us Barabbas. That's a famous story from the crucifixion. And the chorus says, you can be Barabbas too. And I wanted it to be like, oh, no, you don't want to be Barabbas. Like, he was a really, really bad guy. And to make this gospel song where you're saying you can be Barabbas. And the first time Daniel sang it to me, like he made a little demo and sent it to me on my phone. I was listening to it, and I was really touched by the song. Because I heard the 15-year-old boy. It sounds weird when you say this, like, you can write something and not really hear it until it's maybe you hear it read back to you. And I heard in it this really beautiful, sweet gospel message in it that the 15-year-old boy intended, but the 40-something man writing it thought, this will be hilarious, I'll do this. And then to hear that was really touching. It was amazing.
Yeah.
And I love the song even more because it came across being a real gospel song. I'm just, like you said, writing a Spinal Tap song.
Right.
That's so awesome. I did want to ask a question to some of the cast members here, and we'll just kind of go one by one here as we see you on the screen. Tell me kind of an experience making this film that was probably your most memorable, or something that really stood out to you as something that you kind of get, it's going to stick with you as you go through your careers here. Shannon, you want to start us off? Any particular moment or scene or part of the film that really was your most meaningful to you?
I mean, there's a ton. I think every single day. I probably have a real one that I can't think of right now, but off the top of my head, the first day when we were doing, it was one of the first days we were doing that big Striper song, To Hell with the Devil in the hotel room. It was late at night. We were so excited to get started filming, and it's just like this huge dance scene where we're just jumping around, having so much fun. It's so hot. But I don't remember it being hot. I don't remember it being sweaty. I don't remember having to do it over and over again until until morning is nigh. I don't remember that. I just remember being so pumped. Every time they'd be like, okay, we can do it again. The crew was like, oh man, again. And I'm like, okay, yeah, one more time. Let's do it.
That's great. Caleb, you got anything that really stands out for you?
Well, to be honest, I've not got a whole bunch under my belt when it comes to film. I'm working on it.
Sure.
So I took each day as homework, and I know it's kind of a cheesy answer. If I was a little bit more seasoned, I could give you a specific day, but I tried to take every day, every scene. I think one thing that stretched me personally on this one was the balance between learning lines and learning music, and like Shannon said, choreography. But for me, clocking in was getting a job was good enough.
Yeah.
But there's a task at hand. This movie was thick, and I think it stretched all of us. So I'm just appreciative for the growth that came out of doing this project.
That's great. All right, Andrew, what about you? Any moment, scene, anything that you really kind of stands out to you?
Well, I don't know if this counts. I have a million different positive memories making the film, but a really sweet moment that occurred it was a really late shoot. I think all of us got back to the cast house at like 2 or 3 in the morning, and we turned on something on Netflix, maybe The Office, and we sort of fell asleep on the couch, a bunch of us.
Yeah.
And that was just kind of a sweet moment. It was like we were a family at that point. Oh. Yeah. So I don't know if that answers your question, but that was one of my favorite moments.
No, that's great. Well, I think it shows in the film the relationships you guys all bonded, and I think that's a great indication of how that formed over the film as well. Chris, we got another question from the audience.
Yes, it actually kind of dovetails nicely with you mentioning The Office. They were just curious about some of the casting, and they ask, how did you come to get Kevin from The Office, Brian Baumgartner?
Yeah. So when the casting notice went up, what happens with a role like this, a casting director will make an announcement, New York, LA kind of thing, where they're sending it out to agents, and you get lots of submissions. And I don't know what the protocol is. I don't know if I'm allowed to say who submitted for the role. I think I'm not.
Yeah,
but off the air, I'll tell you some names of people, and it was just like we're getting and cool, like really cool, like, oh yeah, I can see this person. And I remember you guys we were already down there before Brian got cast, and I saw his name come up as for Skip. Mm-hmm. And I was like, I hadn't thought of him as Skip. And then I was like, but we're trying to cast a double for Gunnar at the end. Gunnar Willis, who plays the bass player. Cliff. So Gunnar was in the office and said, hey, Gunnar, what would you think about if we got Brian Baumgartner to play old you? And he just froze. And he almost started crying. I swear. Like, his eyes started watering. He goes, he's like one of my acting heroes. Wow. He was just like, so like, could he really? And I was like, I don't think you look enough alike. But he's tall. he's the right age range. And then I went home and I started YouTubing everything Brian Baumgartner, just seeing him when he's not Kevin.
Sure.
His character is very different than Kevin Malone.
Sure.
And then I was like, I think this is a guy. I think this is the guy. He's a theater guy, and he's got this comedy background. And one thing led to another, and he got the part.
That's so great. I thought he was perfect in the role too.
Yeah,
so
he
nailed it. It was great. And then of course you had Judd Nelson playing a part as well, which was great to have.
Yeah.
There again, kind of throwing back to some 80s side of things. It just made perfect sense.
Oh yeah, he
there.
was an acting hero of mine when I was a younger guy. Yeah. I mean, if you're our age, Judd Nelson.
He was the man.
He's big.
Yeah, Judd Nelson and the Breakfast Club. I mean, you cannot get any more stereotypical 80s than that. So it's perfect.
Do we have time for?
Yeah, we got
question?
time for one more if we got another question, Chris.
So if you have not watched the movie yet for some reason, then stop right here.
Okay.
But hopefully you have,
coming.
We're going into spoilers.
Hopefully you have watched the movie. If not, just come back later. Excuse me. But we have a question that, do we know what happened to the girl, the character, and how she dies? So they were just curious about that part. So
there's some people just ask, I know somebody got really, a friend of mine saw it and he's like, why did you kill Sarah? It's like, and so first of all, the reason why she needs to go is because I think Eric's realizing now that she's not the answer. Like I didn't want that kind of sentimental, you can find your old love, and sort out your life and now it all makes sense. It's not going to work out that way for him. So I needed that not to be an option. I didn't want people to come out of the movie going, oh man, that guy should go find the girl, Also, he needed to understand that the story wasn't about him. Mm-hmm. He's been telling a story for 30 years. It's actually about the girl.
Yeah.
He thought it was about him and his heartbreak and this weird thing that happened on the road. But, this movie is an origin story for this great singer-songwriter, Sarah Wimber. It's not about this band so much.
That's true, because, really, more or less, Eric, the character, after the summer was done, the tour was done, he kind of went back to his normal life.
Yeah.
It didn't really dramatically shift his direction. Right. But yet Sarah's life completely went on a tangent because of this experience. So,
and he never knew that. And I think he realizes it now going to the funeral.
Right.
Obviously, when her sister says, you didn't know this about Sarah. But there was a line in the script that explained how Sarah died. And it was just got in a car accident, randomly passed away. It wasn't like drugs or cancer or but there was, even into the next to last draft of the movie, we recorded that, Andy, I think, where you said something like she died on the way home from the supermarket or something. So it was just a random horrible thing. But then I got feedback from several people just saying, why don't you just take that out? We know she's dead.
Yeah.
Let us sort that out and figure out what we think the reason is. And when I made that cut, it was a little painful because I wanted it to seem a little shocking and random. But I've liked having that ambiguity at the end. And I'm glad that person asked that question, because I think about it too, but when I think about how she passed away, I just think it's a tragedy. It's just sad. She just met an untimely end.
That's great. I do want to go around back over to our actors here and ask you guys, I'd just love to hear, are there any, what are you guys up to these days? I know you're still doing promotion for the film, and I know, am I hearing right, you're getting together to record a music video? Is that kind of the plan? Or maybe some other promotional things?
Yeah, these guys are together in South Carolina this week and shooting a music video for an upcoming Electric Jesus single. It's going to be on our soundtrack.
Very cool.
Yeah.
So other than that, do you guys, anybody want to talk about any projects or things that they may also have going on, or other things you're getting into right now? Shannon, what you got going on right now?
Well, everything's kind of at a little slow pace right now.
Sure. I don't know why. Why is that? I don't understand.
No. Something's going on or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
But productions are starting back up, so it'll be fun to get in a little bit, do a little bit here, a little bit there on sets.
Yeah.
In no matter position. I do a little bit of costumes. Very fun, very fashion.
Oh yeah, that's awesome. What about you, Caleb? What you got going on these days?
Is it appropriate to? Are you talking about other work going on?
I'm giving you a chance to plug or say or talk about anything you want to plug for us, man. It does, and if there's nothing, that's cool too. So
I've only got one thing to plug, actually.
Yeah.
No, there's a movie, Small Group, I did back in 2016.
Okay.
And usually at churches, they'll break away into more intimate pods.
Uh-huh.
And it's for more intimate connection. You meet up weekly. It's with amongst church goers. I've myself been involved in some. And the movie is just now coming out. It'll be on digital and DVD. So you've got Hulu and all sorts of stuff. It's called Small Group, and it's about a man who infiltrates a small group to try to dig up dirt on Christianity.
Oh, cool.
And the movie goes on from there, and I play his neighbor, and I have a few tattoos.
Nice.
Maybe some dip in my lip.
Oh, right.
Nice.
Very nice.
It's wonderful.
And that'll be out October 6th.
October 6th, coming out on digital, online distribution type of thing. Perfect.
And they'll be sending it to churches so that they can play off their personal websites as a live feed.
Great. What about you, Andrew? Anything you want to plug or talk about?
Man, no, I've been lucky enough to like last week, a good friend of mine asked me to join this table read for a film festival. Doing little things, I'm still staying busy, auditioning.
Yeah.
Like Shannon said, things are coming back online. So I'm lucky to have an agent during this really turbulent period. But
Good.
Yeah, man, nothing to plug specifically.
Yeah.
But go see Electric Jesus again. If you liked it as much as we like making it.
That's the deal right there. Chris, anything you want to tell us about, or just about the future of Electric Jesus right now? Kind of where it's going.
So we're in several U.S. festivals this fall.
Okay, good.
So we'll kind of and I think a few that are at the first of next year. But we're in what would be considered a sales cycle for a movie. So we're being shopped around to different people. So the fact that you're able to see the movie here at Footcandle. It's a real treat because normally a film like this, if it's not in festivals, you would just see it if you saw it, but you're getting a sneak peek at something that will probably pop up either in a theater or on a streamer sometime early next year.
Yeah.
So you really are getting something soon. And starting next week, and I'll send you some information about this, we're doing a crowdfunding campaign for the soundtrack. It's going to be a double LP soundtrack of music from the movie, music inspired by the movie, some of the scores. Some of your watchers probably picked up on the melodies of Commando and Girl being a part of the soundtrack. Yes. And Daniel's soundtrack for that is fantastic. It'll be 80 minutes of Electric Jesus music on vinyl or CD. And they're cool, very cool gifts when you donate to that. In fact, we were talking today that people with that crowdfunding campaign could actually claim one of the costumes from the movie.
Oh, wow.
Cool stuff with the Electric Jesus crowdfunding campaign we'll share with you guys, and it launches on the 1st.
Well, I definitely encourage audience, anybody who really liked the film, definitely want to check it out. What's probably the best place for them to get connected with the film in general? The
website is electricjesusfilm.com. There's you can get T-shirts and stuff. You can read about the making and see behind the scenes stuff. And then we also have a YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. If you just do eJesusFilm, either hashtag eJesusFilm or just facebook.com/eJesusFilm, you'll find us. Okay. And there's lots of really great content. That Facebook page is rich with behind the scenes videos, and we actually have a new music video coming out maybe tomorrow or the next day for the song Girl.
So that was the roller skating rink song, right?
Right.
Love that scene.
So,
that was great.
So that's coming out soon, and if you go to the website though and you give us your email address, we'll send you all the updates on everything, and of course when we're in full release, we'll also let you know.
That's perfect. That's great. Listen, I want to say thank you to everybody affiliated with the film, and please pass along our congratulations to everybody else that was not here with us today, because it's a great film. It's played really well. We were really happy to have it at the festival this year. So let me go around and say thank you to our cast that's on the Zoom here with us. Shannon Hutchinson over on the left. We got Caleb Hoffman there in the middle, and we've got Andrew Eckel on the far right. Thank you guys so much for taking some time out of the shoot and being here to join with us the conversation. And then writer-director Chris White.
Thank you.
Thanks, Chris, man, for coming in and being in person too. I appreciate you making the trip up from from your home in South Carolina just to spend a little time up here with
Yeah,
us. So
Hickory's the best. Hickory's awesome. And guys, I will grab you a Footcandle t-shirt on my way out the door.
Yeah, he's already got them in hand, so you guys are all set. So you're good. Perfect. That's great. Well, listen, we're going to go ahead and wrap up this Q&A. So again, follow Electric Jesus through all their Facebook and social media channels and the website and everywhere else. And again, thank you all for being here, being part of the festival. Make sure, audience, if you have not rated the film yet, you do need to do that. That determines our audience favorite awards. And what you need to do is, if you're watching this right now, when you close off this window and stop watching the live stream, you should have on the page where you got your ticket initially, a bar that now appears that allows you to rate the film on a 1 to 5 scale. Please do that, because those scores help determine the audience favorite awards that we give out Sunday night. Sunday night, we're also giving out some grant money to grant recipients for upcoming Carolinas-based film productions. And you may be seeing a familiar face or name popping up in that too, because there may be some future projects that we're able to help be a little bit of a partnership with on the Film Society side of things. So Sunday night, 7 o'clock, that's a free event. It's a live stream. You just go to the Footcandle Film Festival website and you can click the button to watch it. You don't have to buy anything. It's free, and it'll be like a hour or so presentation. It should be a lot of fun as well. So for that, we're going to sign off. Chris Fry's over there on the far right, and Alan Jackson here. Thanks a lot.